Madam Toastmaster President, Toastmasters, guests. Desmond Morris once reckoned that there was only one universal human gesture. The man had written extensive books and had examined human beings from, I suppose, a zoological point of view. And that was his contention. There was one universal human gesture, the negative head shake. And he reckoned that this occurred when the suckling child wanted no more. It went... and that to him became the universal, no, I've had enough. Problem was, I think he was wrong. There are lots of universal human gestures. Problem is, they're not always the same in different parts of the world. In fact, things are not always as they seem. Which reminds me of the story of the two guys wandering through the woods. And they come across this great big hole. And one of them looks in and he says, "That's deep." And the other guy says, "It is." So he grabs a few pebbles and he throws them in and he goes, cocks the ear, no sound. It's deep, all right. So the other guy grabs a rock, you know, about fist-sized one, and he throws it in. Still no sound. It's deep. And the other guy grabs this rock about the size of a football and goes, thunk. No sound. Ah, that's it. It's too deep. We'll never find it. Let's go. Oh, I'd love to get something big. I'd love to find out how deep it is. Forget it. We will never know. And he says, "Hi, look. There's a railway sleeper over there in the trees, in the bushes. Let's get that." So these two guys go over. They get this railway sleeper and they all the ground and go 1, 2, 3, way! And it goes. And they go, and there's no sound. But suddenly there's this rustling behind them. And out of the trees comes this goat, running as fast as his legs will carry him, straight between the two guys, up in the air and down into the hole. And one turns and looks at the other and says, "That's weird. Plummin' right it is." And they're about to go away when this farmer comes along and he says, "By any chance did anybody see a goat here?" "Well, I tell you something, the weirdest thing ever. We did see a goat. But it ran out of the woods across here, in between the two of us, and into the hole, jumped straight into this hole." "Ah, no," says your man, "that couldn't be my goat. My goat was attached to a railway sleeper." Things are not always as they seem. And we as children, when we started school, for the first 18 years of my life, my hands and my arms were the two things that defined my gestures. What was the first gesture we all learnt in school? "Please, miss, can I go out?" Well, Cadog and Dullamock. Have you ever noticed that all you need to do is click your heels and it becomes a Nazi salute? That's what I mean by things are not always as they seem. Unfortunately, when we went to school, hands became really important. Palms. We had a headmaster who at the beginning of every year would go out to the yard to the sally bush. And every school in Ireland, primary school, old schools, has a sally bush beside it. And he would cut these sally rods and he would come in, 3 or 4 of them, and he would trim them and he'd check them for something. And he'd swish them in the air and he'd bang them on the desk, and then he would select one and he would carefully put it on the window. And it sat there as a threat. Things are not always as they seem, because the poor man, he never actually hit anybody with it. But I think it worked. At secondary schools, and I notice Paul is not here because we went to the same secondary school. When we went to secondary school, it became a strap. A leather strap about this wide and about 1 foot long. Right? And some of the guys who used these straps had them moulded to their hands and well leathered in Dublin so they flexed. And when you got 6 at the best, anybody who can remember that, it hurt. It really did. But we survived, funny enough. And then what was the next one? This. I spent my teenage years using that because I hitched around Ireland. Unfortunately, the thumbs up is not what it seems. You all know what the thumbs up is, don't you? Yes? The thumbs up simply means thumbs up. It's good. Unfortunately, in Italy it means 1. In Japan it means 5. And don't ever hitchhike in Greece, because it does mean up yours. And it's absolutely amazing. Because funny enough, when you go around the world, you assume that hitching a lift is normal. It's not. In some parts of Africa, that's how you hitch a lift. You palm down. And I've noticed some older people use it in Ireland still. And there's this lovely gesture in parts of East Africa where if you're driving along and there's somebody out on the road like this and you do that, it actually means, no, I'm not going to give you a lift. Which, funny enough, has translated into America, talk to the hand. It's fascinating how things don't always seem the same. And yet, after all these years, I now find I'm getting to the end of my life and I'm finding that the gestures I use are becoming a little bit more confusing. For starters, it's okay. Well, actually, it isn't okay. Because while that means zero to some people, that means coins to the Japanese, it is a gross sexual insult in most parts of the Mediterranean. So what chance if you're in Greece and you go like that and like that? You're in serious trouble. But I find, as I say, as I get older, that my arms have stopped being the part of the gestures that bother me. So where do I get to? It's moved to my feet. Now it's getting up in the morning and the rheumatics are at the knees, particularly on a cold winter's day. The rheumatics are at the knees and the ankles are just sheer and complete agony. So I suppose maybe that's the way the world works. You start with the hand and you end up with the feet. It goes from top to bottom. For me, I'll stick with the old hands.